G'day lads, Green here. Actually, probably should take this off. Probably not good with the recent events. That's better. Is that even a good intro? While the world has been dealing with a certain virus that I can't really talk about, Australia quietly passed a law that is both quite vague, but also, in my opinion, much better off that way. That's right, you read the title perfectly fine. Australia has actually kind of banned the physical media of hentai in Australia. Most of this began in early this year in February, when some local South Australian MP discovered hentai through a local Australian comic shop. Which, as a quick aside, they're mostly worried about the lolly aspects of hentai and manga that they found. Which also, as a quick aside, let me just give you a brief aside about what lolly actually is. Lolly usually depicts younger girls, mostly looking like they're 12 years old, but they have excuses of like, oh, I'm a 19-year-old succubus and, you know, grave sex or whatever, and they just use it as like a weird excuse to be like, oh, but they're not actually 12, even though they look it and have all the aspects of it, they're not actually, so it's totally legal. However, this was mostly just the final nail in the coffin of how Australia viewed sexual content from Japan, as the end of 2019, police discovered a bunch of childlike sex dolls throughout the entirety of Australia and quickly shut that down. And yeah, just also as an FYI, very much fucking legal in this country to own a childlike sex doll now. And specifically, looking into manga and how that kind of scapegoats a lot of the rating systems throughout most of the world, the way classification works for manga and most of these sort of like hentais and that sort of stuff, the distributor actually gives the classification to it, rather than, you know, a normal board looking over things like for mostly comics and films, which has a lot of problems for major reasons, the number one being bias. Like, for example, can you imagine a world where Disney gives classifications for their own films? Now, there's been at least one case that I can find as of recent where someone has actually been tried for CP, for having some lolly on his computer. Now, out of the 405 images that were found on his computer, 90% of those were found to be of anime characters. So, just as a broad aside, there were some actual child porn on his computer, but again, 90% of it was lolly. And so, that leads to now. Whereas as a recording from a couple weeks ago, Australia has passed new laws on the federal level about what can be brought into Australia from Japan in regards to sexually explicit content. And this is a quote directly from the Australian Border Force website in regards to this as well, so this is just word for word quote. I've got it here because I'm not going to be able to remember it. Publications, films, computer games, and any other goods that describe, depict, express, or otherwise deal with manners of sex in such a way that they offend against the standards of morality, decency, propriety, generally accepted by reasonable adults, are not allowed. Which, I'll be the first to admit, this is pretty broad. However, it is getting rid of the disgusting form of art that has been passed around. Even as of last week, companies like J-List are now saying that all 18 plus material that have been shipped from Japan to Australia are now getting rejected by the Border Force and getting shipped back to Japan. So I suggest if you want your lewd anime waifu statues that you try and find it locally, or at least the ones that aren't fucking lolly, because I imagine they're probably about to become a whole lot more valuable now that they can't be directly imported from Japan. Now, this being said, this law doesn't directly address online material, so as far as I know and as far as it states, that doesn't actually apply to banning of any online hentai or online Japanese porn and that sort of stuff. But hey, wouldn't put it past them, because Australia's already actually passed laws to ban both 4chan and 8chan. However, also, they still kind of half-fucked it because it only applies to certain ISP providers. Like, my current and my last ISP provider haven't blocked 4chan, and I've totally been able to access it completely fine. I don't know what's up with that. They kind of censored it, but they kind of don't. But of course, be it physical or digital online media, if we're told we can't have something, people are going to go out of their way to try and find something just because they can't have it. And unfortunately, people are still going to access it, even the fuck lolly stuff, and there's not really much that we can do about it. Now, I've tried not to say certain words and phrases in this video in hope of trying to keep it monetized, because I want this video to try and get as recommended to as many people as I can, because this just isn't being talked about for some reason, which I think it kind of needs to be. And if it does get demonetized, that just means it's going to get thrown in the YouTube back bin and not get recommended to anybody, and it's just not going to be any good for anyone. So, not that I have high hopes for this to be monetized anyway. I'll give it a couple goes where they're censoring stuff here and there. But again, if it's monetized and you're kind of thinking like that's a moral conundrum as to why it is, kind of profiting off it, that's why. I want people to get it out there. Now, let me end the video with this. Is it good that our government gives vague options about what might offend people and whether we can actually have that media or not? Obviously not, but fuck pedos. If you're attracted to kids, you don't have a fucking place on this society or this earth. Lolly is just an excuse to give yourself a defense that you're actually a pedophile. Be it 900-year-old fuck vampire or not, it's still a 12-year-old child that's been depicted and you are attracted to it, so you are a fucking pedophile. And I hope you fucking get what's coming to you. Fuck pedos, fuck Lolly, traps are gay, and I'll catch you later, cunt. Also, quick aside, check out this video here, or in the end cards, or wherever the hell I decide to put it here, because YouTube apparently that day decided to not push videos to subscription boxes, so there's chances you didn't even know this video existed, or this video was on my channel. So go check it out, it's a heap of fun. Me and my friend memed along to this thing, and yeah, roll outro. And also that explain the weird Indian man in my outro now.
Thank you for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe to Mr. Green and check out all of his social medias down below. My name Goda.